Welcome to today's segment of AutoCrit's Coffee Break. My name is Bekah Brinkmeier, and I am your host. I am also a best-selling author and author coach here at AutoCrit. I wear so many hats. And I am here with Michael Pratl, and we are going to talk about his work in the hard science fiction genre. And I am just so excited to learn more about you, Michael. So thank you so much for being on today.
Yes, thank you.
To get us started, I would love it if you could introduce yourself to our audience and just give them a little bit about who you are as a writer and kind of what inspires you to keep writing.
Okay, so my background is not literary or journalism or marketing or sales. It's all been federal compliance inspector, auditor. Um, that work dried up, and I got interested. I was never interested in writing or reading, actually. When I was in high school, it was like English was, it was taboo. I never wanted to do the homework, just didn't like it. Oddly, now I find that reading and writing are a thrill, something I look forward to. Now, how I got started on my current book, and it's been a while, I think that's kind of typical. You start, you park, you start, you park.
That's
Uh,
true.
and for me, it was the result of a dream. It felt very long because I was very tired when I woke. It was about 3:15 in the morning, and I decided, usually I think to myself, oh, I'll remember in the morning. But this time I decided, I need to write it down. So I sat at the computer, I started writing. 5.5 hours later, I decided I needed some coffee. So I've been writing steady for that long. And it was like I couldn't wait for the next thought to come to me and start putting it together. So it was really a pantser approach. There wasn't anything other than that. But it seemed like things started fitting together into a story. So then I decided, well, I needed to do some research on how to develop as a writer and really see if this is what I want to do. And it is what I want to do. Um, So that's kind of like the beginning. So it's like every time I sit down to write, I think I just got to make a comment here. I'm down for 2 hours. I can't, I can't seem to get away. So anyway, it's in me, and I love writing, and I discovered that I love to read because I'm learning a lot by reading other work.
It is absolutely essential to, I think, us growing in our genres and also just growing as artists and creators is to continuously engage in the content that we are aspiring to create. So reading, I'm a voracious reader myself. I read in the genre that I write in, but I also read everything else because I am fascinated by story. I love the creativity that people have come up with to create so many millions of books. We could never read all of them in our lifetime, but I kind of love that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I tend to read in my genre as well, and there are a couple. I don't see them here right now. I can't remember the name of it, but there's one that's called the 1 hour something. It's a short story, and it's so short. It's like 4 pages.
Okay, that is a short, yeah.
Yeah, and it's fascinating.
I love that you have experienced what I call the writing flow state where you start writing and then you look up and you're like, how much time has gone by? What happened? That's when you know that that idea is not going to leave you alone until you do it justice and get it out on paper. Now, you are currently drafting. Have you attempted the editing process yet, or are you still drafting your first draft?
Both actually, and I know one of the mortal sins is to draft and edit as you go. And so I don't do that. I drafted and it's like, I probably need to learn if I'm going to, am I driving towards a plot hole? I need to, I need to understand myself, right? And
Hmm.
also, is there a way to write where my voice becomes distinguishable, or am I just kind of like throwing words on a page? So one of the things that I did was AutoCrit has a like a first chapter review,
Hmm.
3,000 words. So I sent that off. It was a couple months ago. Got it back. I haven't reacted to it yet, but one of the things that kind of stuck in mind was that there was an interest to know more about the characters because it felt to the reviewers felt like the characters were kind of at a distance and that you were not brought into their lives and understand, you know, the visceral moments when there were certain dramatic scenes and so on. So it's like, okay. And of course, I learned a lot with, we had we had a short story challenge, uh, a couple of other challenges. There was one where you couldn't start a sentence. Remember? What was it?
Was that
Couldn't.
Destination Unknown? We had lots of
Yes,
fun
yes,
twists with that one.
yes, yes. There were like three twists to it. The, the story must begin with this and must end with this, and um, we can't have any sentence that begins with whatever was in the allotted starting sentences of AutoCrit. So, so I learned a lot there too.
Hmm.
Um, it was doing that, taking that exercise was almost like the cliff notes to writing. I could get the same information if I spent the time reading and finding out, but the actual experience of having a challenge and do these things, don't do these things, and learning how to modify the story based on the twists and finding out how pliable the story can be if you really know your story well enough. If you don't, then it's like, I don't know where I'm going with this. What happens if this? And right? And
It's true.
here's the other thing I learned. So the the story that I had written down when it was at 3:30 in the morning is called Depletion. And
Hmm.
um, the story that I did for uh, the challenge wasn't that at all. But what it gave me was a perspective of, wow, how complex depletion is. And I need to be very careful because it is complex. I even have places where I have dual plots,
Hmm.
where it's split and they come back and it's split. And so managing that is like, okay, it's going to be a doozy. Um, but anyway, that's kind of probably more than you asked for, but
No, I love that you've been a active part of our AutoCrit writing challenges. We put a lot of time and effort into creating these so that they do have that educational component. They are, of course, always free to enter. We want you to challenge yourself in your writing. We want you to grow as an author, as a writer. We want you to play. You can usually tell the ones that I'm involved in because they're going to have a touch of whimsy. They're going to be a little bit playful because sometimes that's how we grow is by playing with words, by playing with structure, by deconstructing something and then building it back up again, slightly different. I think that when you're able to do that, you understand your work in a different way, and that can make the whole process more efficient, at least in my experience over the years, having, completed so many different books that the ability to deconstruct some of these things helps me understand the structure better. So I try to bring that to some of our writing challenges as well.
so one of the other things that I've learned is that, uh, and it kind of is a parallel to sales.
Mm,
When you're selling, you may have a good story to tell, but if the prospect doesn't want to hear it, you're not going to sell it. So
True.
the same thing in writing. Now, if you want to write just for pleasure and put it on a shelf, that's one thing. But if you want to monetize it, then you have to consider who the customer is. And they may want something that you're not delivering. And so one of the things I looked into was researched what do people in the hard sci-fi look for in a book and what keeps them there. So I got some good information there, and some of it was like, whoa, okay, well, I've got some stuff that just doesn't belong. And I learned from reading Stephen King on writing
Mm-hmm.
that
A classic.
there are times where you have to kill your darlings.
Yes.
But I love these words. I love this scene, but it doesn't work.
It's a hard editing choice to make. I don't kill them completely. I move them to a slush pile usually. Especially if it's something I'm feeling pretty attached to that I like the prose or I like that character. If I have to, God forbid, take out an entire character, then I will just move them over to a working file that where all of them gather and congregate until I decide to reuse them for something else or reconfigure them to something else because sometimes I just like those words. It's just not the right fit for the project.
Yeah, so uh, my stash is called the cutting room,
Oh, nice. I like it.
and I imagine that that's where once they're moved to the cutting room and they're kind of isolated and they don't talk to other cuts until they finally get used to each other, and then it's kind of like toys that come alive at night.
That would be a whole other collection of short stories, I think, is what do
Yeah,
all of
yeah,
your cut characters do when you're not looking? Mind plot. They
yeah.
plot their escape and demand their next book. One of the things too you spoke a lot about, and I'd like to pull this out is because it's so important, is doing the market research when we are looking to sell our books. And I'm a storyteller by nature, I write for commercial gain as well. I write because I want my books to sell, and I spend a lot of time selling my books. So one thing that I always have to do is that market research. I need to know who my target audience is and I need to know what they want. And part of that is going where the readers are and interacting there. Part of that is reading in my genre so I understand what is hitting the chart. And the other part of it is doing actual market analysis. Now, I use our newest feature. I don't know if you've had a chance to play with it yet, but Market Fuel does evaluates your work. Same with the story analyzer, and it's going to read your work and it's going to pull out what your target audience and demographics are and what your similar works are based on what you have written in writer's desk. It's going to give you some category suggestions, some keyword suggestions, some marketing suggestions, and I use that tool to kind of help me make decisions on what I'm doing with that series or where I'm going to position this book in the market. The important thing about Market Fuel, because I've had talked to so many people that are like, oh, my book's not done yet, so I haven't run it. I use it at the beginning, the middle, and the end because I want to know halfway through if this book is not giving the
Yeah.
target audience that I want, then I want to change it now. I don't want to wait till
Yeah,
I'm
you don't want to
200K in.
be on a path to the dumpster.
No, because then it's going to delay our editing process even more because then you have to go in and fix. And I try to avoid rewrites whenever possible. Since this is a coffee break, I wanted to give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about the story that you're currently working on. You did say that it's hard science fiction, so I would love it if you wanted to share with our audience what you're working on and tell us about this book.
Yeah, so I've written a log line and I've written a blurb. Talon, a master cryptographer, uncovers a planetary salvation program masking as a genome-targeted genocide and domination of worlds. Hunted by those he once saved, he must choose between silence to protect his family or exposing the truth to save two worlds.
Ooh, lots of intrigue there.
And the blurb starts, only the truth can defeat evil. Planet Anasazi is collapsing under a dying magnetosphere. The solution, an untested beyond AI biotechnology. But behind the scenes, a subversive plot unfolds. A pseudo government orchestrates selective genocide and the commodification of life, blurring the line between citizen and currency. Talon, a master cryptographer, uncovers this horrifying secret, realizes he may be the only true hope for salvation. Caught between duty, morality, and conscience, he must stay silent to protect his family or risk everything to expose the truth to save two worlds. When survival is a ruse, resistance becomes the last form of truth.
What a powerful last line there. Oh my goodness. That is excellent. You know, what else caught me about that is you had a line in there that is, I think I caught it right. It's blurring the line between citizen and currency. And
Yes,
that is visceral. That is such a powerful turn of phrase. I love it. I think that this sounds gritty. It sounds like you're dealing with some really strong themes. You're dealing with a lot of the tech side of things. Like I mean, I understand intellectually the words, but putting that into building out that structure inside of your book so that it supports that. I mean, that is kudos because that's a lot of work. Hard science fiction requires a lot of research and development when it comes to some of these, especially when you're dealing with that futuristic technology. I think it sounds fantastic. I really do,
thank you.
and I am excited for this to come onto the market in the future. So kudos all around, Michael. That sounded great.
Great, thank you.
And with that, I am going to wish you all the best and thank you so much for sharing your insights, your time, and your work with us today. It has been a pleasure chatting with you as part of our AutoCrit coffee break segment. We are anxiously awaiting your debut. And as always, thank you for tuning in. Keep writing, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Beckham.
Bye.
Bye bye.